Hello.
Hello.
And we're not in Glastonbury, as you can see. We are inside a neolithic long barrow, a chambered long barrow called Stoney Littleton, which is in Somerset. And it's a really lovely example. We wish we could show you all of it, but it's too dark. It dates from around 3500 BC and is one of the finest examples that we have in Britain. And we thought we'd come here today because it really ties in with some of the things we're going to be speaking about with the rune that we're here to discuss today, which is Perthro. So we're kind of in the middle of the Uthark or Futhark now. The Germanic name is Perthro, the Anglo-Saxon name is Pierth, and there is actually no Old Norse name. Now the letter P rarely appears in Old Norse at all, and very rarely appears in any Anglo-Saxon poems, so it's not a widely used letter in that language. So this rune came into power on the 13th of January. It peaks today on the 20th and it runs through until the 27th of January. And so now on the wheel we're kind of moving towards the northeast, and if you imagine the wheel divided into sectors, the northern sector, which is ruled over by Odin and the Norns, we're at the very northeastern point of that sector now. So this is one of the runes which is probably one of the most mysterious runes. Its meaning has never truly fully been established and is quite open to conjecture. So some of the ideas that have been put forward about this is that it could be to do with birth. It could represent a dice cup or a lock cup used for divination or gaming, and could also in Anglo-Saxon be a chess piece. So this is the rune of chants, the rune of weird, and is very connected to the Nornir. If we look what it says in the Voluspa about the Nornir, it says, "They laid down laws, they chose lives for the sons of men, the fates of men." So we've already spoken about the Nornir a lot. Obviously they're connected with other runes within this Ayat. You know, Hargul, Naudis and Isa are all very connected with the Norns, as indeed is this rune. And again, this is another rocker rune, another one of the dark feminine runes. And you know, here we are at Stoney Littleton, a very feminine place. You know, these barrows are like the womb of the goddess, and there is actually, dowsing has shown there is actually water under this long barrow. So this is a watery rune, very feminine. So let's first have a quick look at the first kind of meanings. So we're talking about gambling, gaming, chance and brisk. Now Tacitus in Germania wrote that he described runic divination amongst the Norse folk, and also their preoccupation and almost addiction where it came to gambling. You know, these guys were pretty serious about gambling, even to the point where they would basically sell themselves into slavery through gambling. So, you know, they sometimes took it too far, let's just say. So there's an early form of chess which is called Nefer Tafel. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. And it basically, you know, it's a bit like checkers or tables, and can kind of be likened to sort of prehistoric form of warfare. It's less advanced than the chess game. So if we look at the golden age of the Asir, now the first ayat basically describes creation, and we're looking at a time, the golden age, where there was no murder, there was no theft, there was no war, everybody lived in peace. And this is basically before Gulveg, whose name translates as Goldbrew, was killed in the Hall of the High One, after which the Nornir appeared and came in, and obviously are represented in the second ayat. So in the Voluspa 8 it says, "They played checkers in the meadow, they were merry, they did not lack for gold at all, until 3 ogre girls came, all powerful women out of giant land." So what I think this rune may represent is you know, through gaming, it basically represents that golden age. That basically describes that golden age, which was known as Frida, which was a time of peace and plenty. It was a time when spirit, represented by Odin, was in a sacred union with love, represented by Frigga. And then obviously we have, in the Völuspá, we have the description of Ragnarok. And then later on in the Völuspá, in 58, it says, "There will be found again in the grass the wonderful golden checkers, those which they possessed in the bygone days." So one meaning of this rune could be sort of, you know, through gaming, a time of plenty, a time of goodness, and you know, that kind of carefree with no worries and everything being good. Obviously in the second ayat we see it kind of tells us about human life and the struggles that we have there. So another meaning of this rune that I relate to strongly is that of birth. Now if we look at the Anglo-Saxon rune poem, it says, "Perth is always play and laughter to the proud ones, where warriors sit in the beer hall blithely together." Now the Anglo-Saxon name for warriors is Wigan, and the Anglo-Saxon name for beer hall was Beersel. Probably not very good pronunciations of Anglo-Saxon then, but I did my best. So if we change those two words from Wigan to Withan, which means wives, and from Beersel to Beersel, which means birth hall, it puts a completely different slant on the Anglo-Saxon rune poem and takes it to, "Perth is always play and laughter to the proud ones, where wives sit in the birth hall blithely together." So as you see, it puts a completely different meaning on. And if you look at the shape of the rune, and being a muppet I've gone and left my runes at home, but I'll put the rune up on the screen. It is a bit like you know, a womb, an opening, a vessel, and that's, you know, it actually reminds me very much of the opening of these long barrows, which are meant to be sort of, you know, the womb of the goddess. But it also looks like the birthing position, you know, sort of on elbows and knees. You know, that's the way it looks. So I think this rune is very strongly connected with birth. And even the Anglo-Saxon name, Perth, sounds very similar to birth. So in the journey of the magician, if we imagine, just like in tarot cards, we have the journey of the fool. If you imagine that as you go through the wheel, that at this stage we are in the darkest, deepest depths in you know, in the womb of the goddess Hela. So obviously this rune is preceded by Awaz, which is the world tree, Yggdrasil, and Perthro represents the well of Urd, which is underneath the world tree, underneath Yggdrasil, and it also represents the well of Mimir, which contains like what you could call Akashic records. It's all the knowledge. So this is a rune of örlog. Örlog is basically the primal laws or primal layers. It's the Teutonic version of the Vedic Dharma. It's not the same as weird, and the way I'd like to describe it to you is if you imagine that örlog is the loom, it contains, and then weird are the threads that are woven onto the loom. So another way is in a game of poker, obviously that's connected with chance and risk. Örlog is the hand you're dealt, the hand you're given, and weird is the way you play it. So that's the best way to describe what örlog it actually is. Now this rune is also connected with the goddess Frigga. Frigga is a goddess related to birth and children and mothers. She's also the power behind the Norns. So with her distaff she spins raw materials which the Nornir then take and weave into the web of weird, you know, how they create fate. She's also the goddess who knows everything and says nothing. And if we tie this rune into the time of year, to me at the moment, you know, we're getting towards the end of January, everything is cold, but it kind of feels like there's a secret beneath the earth. You know, it's all hidden away, it's all under the earth, and it's almost like, you know, if you imagine a pregnant woman, you know, there's a child growing within the womb, but it's not apparent on the outside, it's all going on underneath, and that very much feels like the time of year and what's going on. And this is a rune about secrets and things being hidden. It's also the rune of divination, and the shape of the rune also looks like the drawstring bag that the runes are contained in, and you can imagine the runes, you know, gestating within that bag in the same way that a child gestates within the womb. In divination, it can be about discovering hidden treasures, new sources of power and inspiration. It's also about the play of fate. So, and I just want to bring in here about the womb and the grave, because if you reverse the rune, it can represent death. And this place that we're in today, people think of them as burial chambers, but it's my belief through research and, you know, shamanic work that isn't just what they were for. These would have been temples, and there you know, as well as bones coming in here, I believe that births would happen in here as well. You know, it's almost like by putting the bones in, the people being returned to the womb of the earth. But I just feel that there is a real link here between the birth and the death, kind of, you know, almost like going back to Iwaz. Obviously the runes flow through each other and there's links there, but you know, I just find it happening very much in my family. I mentioned that my nana died last year on the 18th, well, her sister died this year on the 13th, you know, the first day that this rune came into power. And, you know, so many birthdays for my family fall within this period, as well as deaths. It's kind of strange. We've kind of got that real paradox between, you know, birth and death. And just going back to birth, obviously in this day and age, you know, you go into hospital and you're pretty likely to come out again with a child, but not always. But certainly, even a few hundred years ago, and certainly in the time of our ancestors, birth was a risky thing to do. There was no guarantee that you would survive, and there was no guarantee that the child would survive. And I'm pretty sure that if I had had my daughter a few hundred years ago, that neither of us would be around today. You know,
same for me.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely sure that if I had my son hundreds of years ago, neither of us would be here.
And it's the same with me and Freya. But yeah, so again, you see the birth element being very much tied in with the risk and the chance element, and so you know, those kind of two things are very much linked. This rune's also connected with the goddess Perthro, who I know very little about, but she rides with Odin in the Wild Hunt at Yule, and is a dark underworld goddess, the alter ego of the goddess Hela. So magically, you can use this rune to connect with your örlog. It can be used in fertility magic, obviously women issues, and it can also be used during childbirth. See, we wish we'd known this at the time, don't we? You can use it during childbirth to ease the labour. So yes, that's Perthro.
And also, I've just noticed that, you know, Perthro is a water rune,
It is.
and we've got water just sipping through the rocks here and just falling onto the ground. So, which is
there are also connections
really
with
nice connection.
yeah. There's also connections with Perthro and rocks. You know, like life coming out of the rocks, and so here we sit amongst rocks with water dripping.
And also the Latin root of the word Pietro, it means rock.
So that's probably where it comes from.
Yeah.
It's all linked in. So Carolina, what have you got for us? What's going on astrologically?
Okay, well, astrologically, it's quite a significant time today, because the sun has changed signs. So yesterday actually I went into Aquarius at 9:23 p.m. and it'll stay in Aquarius until the 18th of February. So for the next 4 weeks we have the sun in an air sign. So Aquarius is the 4th air fixed sign, and it's called the water bearer. Even though it's an air sign, the glyph that represents the sign is a lady with 2 vases pouring forth the knowledge from the intellect onto the ground, which is to be shared for all humanity. So the actual glyph is symbolized by two parallel lines which represent electric waves, or so it's the modern representation of the glyph. But I was saying to Shæryn earlier that let's not forget that historically we have used the power of rivers and dams to produce electricity or to create electricity.
Can I just say something?
Yeah,
Just before
yeah.
I forget,
Yeah.
Kate, you'll never guess what we saw as we drove down the little lane to get here.
Yeah, two ravens.
Two ravens sat by the road looking at us.
Yeah.
How cool is that? Odin!
Yeah.
Sorry, I just had to say it before I forgot.
Yeah, so to the ancients, Aquarius represented the spiritual power of the mind that renews and revitalizes everything and all things. So it has that water quality. Water nourishes and it feeds us and it keeps us alive and it gives life as well. So the meaning of Aquarius has been linked to a substance described as a herb giving life, or a life-giving drink. So again, we have the connections between water and Perthro, the rune that we are experiencing at this time of the year. But to understand and make the most out of the transit of the sun through Aquarius, it's important to realize that Aquarius is about progressive thinking, it's about freedom, and it's about vision and about humanitarianism. So it brings forth the idea of a relationship between all things. So it's the ideal relationship between all things. So where we stopped being a one person, an individual that is gaining something for specific motives, and we become more part of a community, part of a society. So we work for the highest good of everybody instead of for personal gain. So during this transit we get a few themes. Some of them are motivated by the hunger of knowledge and originality, and we're constantly looking for ways to view things in a different perspective. So innovation becomes a central part of our thought processes. We are starting to set ourselves free from the constraints of the Capricorn structures. So in a way it's like we are emerging from a cocoon that we have built around ourselves through the dark winter months. So again there's that idea of birth, of emerging, of coming forth in a different way, in a way that serves a collective, because that's what Aquarius is all about as well, about collective consciousness, and how we serve it best as an individual who is part of a group. Okay, Saturn will feature prominently during the transit of the Sun through Aquarius, and Saturn used to be the traditional ruler of Aquarius, which in a way seems a bit of a paradox to have Saturn who's linked to structure and discipline, to a sign who is so different and so it thinks about outside the box, it's quirky. But I think the structure from Saturn comes from having a specific way of dealing with ideas. So it's more like a structured way of thinking, a rational set of steps that we follow in order to produce something that it will be of benefit for everybody. Excuse me. So what's important about Saturn during this period is that it squares Mars, and it was actually exact yesterday, the 19th, squares Mars in Pisces. So it's placing restrictions upon action. So instead of us going out there and doing something without thinking about it, is actually saying, okay, this is a time to have a focused intention. So think before acting, so that we can get the most out of it. Also, then on the 27th of January, which is the last day of Perthro, Saturn will square Venus, also in Pisces, and this is placing restrictions upon finances, which is not a very good you know, thing to have to deal with at this time of the year, but at the same time it's something that, again, traditionally we have to deal with after Yule and, you know, so much expenses and spending. Then Saturn gives us like a reality check, so placing a little bit of, you know, a hold on finances, and think about it before you spend too much. Also, as you may have heard, or some of you will know, Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius, and it's really closely linked to Urd, one of the norns, in the way that it breaks conventions, it breaks outmoded ways of thinking, and then it creates new insights. So from the past, from what we are used to, things that we're used to doing in a traditional way, then it just breaks away from that convention and we create something new. Also, there was a really interesting connection that I made between Perthro and a specific point in a chart, in an astrology chart. Because Perthro has been likened to a luck cup or chance, luck, then we have something in astrology called the part of fortune or the lot of fortune, which is a really significant and sensitive point in a person's chart. All of us have it, and it's calculated from 3 points, and those 3 points are the sun, the moon, and the ascendant. So when we calculate those points, we get a specific sensitive point in the chart called the lot of fortune. And if you have your charts with you, I just want to show you what it looks like. So the lot of fortune is here somewhere. Here somewhere. Oh, here we go.
At least
on my
it's not
lap.
at home what my runes are.
Right. So if you look on your charts, it's circle. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, there we go. It's a circle with a cross in it, and that's your lot of fortune. Okay. So fortune has come to signify wealth and money, but it also signifies luck and chance, and of course it's also a synonym with fate. So the lot of fortune represents mind, body, and soul. And it becomes a zodiacal position where our personal fortune can be achieved or gained. Okay, so it's also linked to the Norns, because in ancient times the astrologers worked from the premises that the Moirai, or the Fates, were the weavers of our weird. The threads that they weaved were represented by the positions of the sun, the moon, and the ascendant, which gave us the position in the chart of the lot of fortune. So the way how we interacted with that lot of fortune is the way also modernly how we achieve fortune, how we gain material benefits from it, but not also material, but spiritual insights as well. So yeah, I thought that was a little, an interesting part that was really linked to the örlog and the weird as well. It's that idea that we weave fate, that we use 3 different points, which is the past, the present, and the future, and then we make something of it. So the part of fortune in your charts, if you're interested to have a look at that, it's all of those skills and talent and endeavours that we are really drawn to, and that if we develop, then we can get great benefit from it.
Cool.
So,
Right, Galdr time?
yeah.
Okay. Shall we move into the chamber a little
Yes,
more?
we're moving a little bit more
a bit deeper into the
into
chamber.
the chamber.
Yes.
We've got some nice candle lanterns there for
We
you.
have. Let's go. Hopefully it won't be too dark. You may not be able to see us, but we figured that doesn't really matter because you probably only want to hear us. Okay, ready? Feel that kind of stillness, you know, kind of beneath the earth, waiting to emerge.
Being held as well at the same time. I just kind of really felt strongly how in the past our ancestors would have come here. Women, I've got a very strong sense of women being here around the fire, maybe preparing for a birth. So you can just really strongly feel that that's something that they would have done as a, you know, regular, everyday thing.
Yeah, whenever I've done sort of shamanic journeys in these places, I've always kind of picked up that they were used for birthing. And I've just noticed in the that there's a part of an ammonite in the rock there.
Oh yeah.
Another connection with water, and there's an ammonite actually outside. But yeah, we are. So here we are then, with Perthro, deep within the womb of the goddess Hela, and here we are, deep within the womb of the goddess in Stoney Littleton. And yeah, so thank you for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed trip around the runic wheel. Thank you to everyone who has subscribed to our channel, and thank you particularly to the lovely ladies from America who have reached out and connected with us and sent us messages. It's really good to hear.
Yeah, it's lovely to hear all those kind words of encouragement, and it's good to know that you're connecting to you know, what we're bringing to you, and that it's touching you in some ways, and that you're kind of resonating with it. It's great.
Definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, keep letting us know how you feel, what you think. It's all great. We love to hear from you.
We do indeed. And please do join us next time. Not sure where we're going to be next time,
No.
but we'll be back in a few weeks with algaes. And yeah, we'll see you soon.
Have a great time.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.